Okay, the other piece to all of this, the Southern Poverty Law Center says it is seeing a rise in recruiting videos from militia groups which gripe against the government, and there are fears they're regrouping. The study by this center cites the stress of the poor economy and the liberal administration that's led by a black president. All of those things factored in contribute to the rise of militias.
And to that end, Mark Podak, director of the Intelligence Project with the Southern Poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Johnson.
Hi, how you guys doing? Senators? One of the things I wanted to bring up, first let me tell you who I am. Name's James Johnson, co-founder of a group called E Pluribus Unum, and one of the leaders and spokesperson for the Ohio Unorganized Militia. I've spoken to many groups around Ohio and in other states, and I've also helped start some groups. Now, what I wanted to touch on was what Mr. Thompson said. I think he focused on a key point, which was why these groups are forming. Why is it growing like it is? And that's some of the topics that need to be addressed, and I think maybe you can talk to some people on the inside like you have here to answer those questions. To put it to you bluntly, some of the legislation that's coming out of Washington, some of the executive actions that are taking place, ladies and gentlemen, these things started a revolution 200 years ago and got this country started. And the people are seeing this. The national news media and the actions of this government is some of the best recruitment we could have. We don't have to say much. All you have to do is talk to the average person out there to tell you, how do you feel about your government? And the people you look at here, we're the calm ones. We're the ones that calm people down. Now, I'm speaking here as a representative for my state and other groups that I know of. The animosity that I see out there between the citizens, all of them, and the government is frightening. What they did was, after listening to all these abuses and government atrocities that you're going to hear here today, and they saw that they were going to no avail, they decided to see what they could do to become part of the solution. They looked into the law, and under Title 10 U.S.C. 311 saw a phenomenon known as the unorganized militia that consists of all people, even the people taking these pictures right here, everyone. And they began to form themselves in units for their own self-defense and their self-preservation. Now, the way we stand now, and it's good that we're getting these views aired out, because 200 years ago, the British didn't get the hint until they saw dead redcoats out there. But this time, maybe we can get this out in the open and have things resolved. Because I feel, and it's concerning to me, and I'm being sincerely honest, that with the increasing polarization between the tax-paying public out here and what goes on, not only in here, but certain state governments, that the only thing standing between some of the current legislation being contemplated and armed conflict is time. It's one of the reasons I got in this movement, to help prevent that. Now, you can see from the last 2 years of sales from the firearms producers in this country, this nation is probably one of the most heavily armed forces on earth. And I have heard more and more people say, if one of these black-suited, armor-wearing, state-sponsored terrorists come kicking down my door, I'm going to blow somebody away. They don't call themselves militia. They don't even call themselves patriots. They call themselves American citizens who are getting tired of confiscatory tax rates, increasingly heavy regulations, which is, they believe, are leading them down a path to involuntary servitude. And one of the slogans that's been going around, especially in Ohio, is what I've been telling people, for those who think that this is just primarily an angry white male movement, is that if our ancestors would have been armed, they would not have been slaves. That's why people are getting armed. Not so much with firepower. That's not the thing that makes it dangerous. What makes it dangerous is that they're being armed with knowledge. What you're going to see is a growing number of citizens, and you're seeing that now, that's why we're here, move away from the authority that is here in the Beltway and begin to create their own constitutional authority. You're going to begin to see this in the resurgence of the common law courts. You're going to begin to see this, and I'm going to summarize here, in the formation of the militias. That's what came first to defend ourselves. But you're also going to see this on the legislative end. You're going to see your own candidates in our own elections, and hopefully that we can become a system which will attract others into a more constitutional-based system. Thank you very much.
Law Center who's been studying the growth of militias in this country. Also, Paul Hemke is the president of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. Mark, I want to begin with you, though. Do we have more militias in this country now? Where are they and what are they doing?
I don't think there's any question at all. It's not only our own reporting, but also the reporting of law enforcement officials around the country who have noticed really the reappearance of these armed groups that actually conduct paramilitary training in the woods and that sort of thing. You know, and at the same time, we're seeing the rhetoric, the ideology of the militias all over the place. It's as you mentioned,
what are two or three of the big talking points in terms of the rhetoric in the militia that is there any consistent theme?
Well, that the country is being lost, that the country our sort of Christian white forefathers created is being stolen from us. We're being robbed. And this is all being kind of hyped up, I think, and accelerated by the fact that we have a black president.
We're back with Governor Edward Rendell of Pennsylvania, and we've got Stephen Moore of the Wall Street Journal joining us right now. Gentlemen, let's take a look at something that happened at Senator Arlen Specter's town meeting today in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. It's pretty dramatic. It's almost as dramatic as that guy we had on with the gun a minute ago.
I'm sick and tired of the Rendells of Harrisburg. I'm sick and tired of our young men and women being used as pawns around the world. Would you go back to Washington and represent us first as an American and tell Mr. Obama he's an American, and if not, there's other countries?
Well, I think President Obama knows he's an American.
Well, Senator Specter is very clear in saying that the president is, of course, an American. I think we can all agree on that. Governor Rendell, I am staggered. I thought we had agreed on certain consensus in America. You know, we're going to try to make it a better country. We're going to make a few changes in welfare, in medical care, and we're going to argue about different provisions. And now we got a guy a minute ago talking about the sort of like the republics at stake. He's acting like Thomas Jefferson. You got to sprinkle the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants. People talking about birth. This guy's questioning the president's birth in America. Are we back on square one and what kind of a country we want? Governor Rendell.
Well, I think it's incumbent, Chris, on the vast majority of Americans who are still good, honest, decent people who believe in American democracy, who believe in real discourse, to step up and say no to these crazies. They've got to make it clear that we, the American majority, don't want any part of people who are destructive and want to destroy this country for their own reasons. I think if the majority speaks up loud and clear, and I think they are beginning to, they're getting fed up with this. You saw what happened to Claire McCaskill. You saw what happened to Arlen Specter. You saw the breakdown of any rational political discourse in this country. And I think the majority of Americans are going to get turned off by it. And I think they're going to step up and they're going to be heard.
Stephen Moore, your thoughts?
Well, I don't really agree. Certainly, I agree that when people go to these kind of town hall meetings and tea parties, they should be very respectful and polite. As you know, Chris, I've been on college campuses where I've been shouted down and not able to speak as a conservative, and I think it's just ill behavior. But I do think it's important for people like Ed Rendell to understand there is an amazing amount of rage out there in this country. It's now I think people should keep
rage
it under control.
At what?
Rage because of the $800 billion obscene fiscal stimulus bill.
Are you telling me that these guys were created by this new president? That the people who were watching on television with their guns and their attitudes about the republic weren't around before January 20th?
Chris, here's the problem with where you look. I don't agree with that gentleman that you had on before. I think it is absurd to bring a gun to these kinds of meetings. So I.
That's right. Not for hate speech. Not for hate speech. Anti-racist. People in this country actually appreciate free speech. Good. Fine. Oh, is that not free speech right there? Oh, good. Okay, cool. Good.
No dialogue with hate. No